Alright guys, before we get into the podcast, let's get through the rigmarole first. Now guys, this podcast posts each and every single Wednesday. The first segment of the show, we go through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. The second segment of the show, we talk about the AFC East and the state of the AFC East. The third segment of the show, we preview this week's particular game. And the fourth and final segment of the show, we go through the Miami Dolphins fan Q&A. This first news story, latest on quarterback Jay Cutler and the Dolphins quarterback situation. This report comes from Pro Football Rumors. Confirming reports from Sunday night, Dolphins quarterback Jay Cutler did indeed suffer cracked ribs in Miami's Week 7 win over the Jets, tweets Ian Rappaport of NFL.com. Cutler is initially expected to miss 2 to 3 weeks while recovering from the injury. With Cutler sidelined, Miami's meeting with free agent, obviously, we actually signed David Fales. Fales spent the summer with the Dolphins and also worked under Miami Dolphins head coach Adam Gase when the pair were in Chicago. Given the history, Fales should have enough familiarity with Gase's offense in order to serve as Matt Moore's backup on Thursday night. If signed, Fales will have been chosen over Dolphins practice squad quarterback Brandon Doughty. Despite Cutler's struggles to begin the 2017 season, he's expected to remain Miami's starter under center when he returns from injury, according to Armando Salguero of the Miami Herald. Moore could certainly change that with excellent play over the next several weeks, but the Dolphins plan to reinsert Cutler when he's available. Cutler, who unretired to join Miami, hasn't performed well this year as he ranks 28th in quarterback rating and 29th in adjusted net yards per attempt. So that kind of gives you the lowdown of what after Jay Cutler gets healthy, when he comes back, will he be the starter? I know a lot of you guys are wondering that, and it looks like I said, Adam Gase, is a very faithful dude. He said all year, no matter what happens, Jay Cutler is the starting quarterback, just like he was with Tannehill. And it really helps quarterback's confidence knowing that he doesn't have to look over his shoulder. And I think that's what kind of the formula Adam Gase likes to work with. He picks the guy he wants, and for the rest of the year, that's his guy. That's just how he is. So this, it is what it is. I know you guys want Matt Moore, but again, like the report says, if Matt Moore goes out there and does great things for, let's say Jay Cutler's out for 3 games, then it's going to be very hard to make that decision, especially in the thick of the playoff race. I mean, you really don't want to make a quarterback change to mess up some of the chemistry there, especially if you're having success. So it is what it is. This next news story, all Dolphins fans have already heard it, but we're just going to run down it really quick. The Dolphins obviously released cornerback Byron Maxwell. The Dolphins have released cornerback Byron Maxwell, as Adam Schefter of ESPN.com tweets. To take his place, the team has signed quarterback David Fales. Obviously, we know that. Maxwell has been demoted from the roster at various points this season. It appears that the cornerback is in decline, but coaches say that he also is refusing to play the defense called from the sideline. And in cases where the Dolphins have called for press man coverage, Maxwell has gone rogue and played far off of receivers. Although coaches were direct with Maxwell about the reasoning behind his benching, he did not take accountability for what it was, talking to the media. He said, quote, this is Byron Maxwell, quote, in no way, shape did I think my play warranted that, Maxwell said earlier this month. It's a coach's decision. Sometimes you have to deal with it. I'm a team player. Suck it up. Obviously, you think you're the best man to do the job. You can't control it. Everyone is trying to support your family, trying to do the job. By releasing him, the Fins are still on the hook for a significant portion of his $8.5 million cap number in 2017. However, they have freed themselves of his contract well before his $10 million cap number would have hit in 2018. They have also taken a potentially toxic player out of the locker room. The Dolphins acquired Maxwell from the Eagles in the summer of 2016, just 2 days after they cut Brent Grimes. They were hoping that the cornerback could bounce back from a down year in 2015, but he was never able to get things going in Miami. On the plus side, linebacker Kilo Alonso remains a fixture on the defense, so the Dolphins didn't totally lose out when they moved down from the number 8 pick to the number 13 pick that year. So that is really, I guess that report really lets you guys know, and all of us Dolphins fans know, that the reason why they cut him. It wasn't like for no reason they cut him. He's a great player. He's not. It was legitimate reasons. Number one, obviously, Cordrea Tankersley is far superior. His play was just better than Byron Maxwell. He's just a better player at this point in his career. And obviously that's a pretty big, terrible thing. As a player, if you're not doing what the coaches are, if you're not running the plays that are called, then obviously you shouldn't be on the team anymore. If you if you're not a coachable player, then you shouldn't be on the team anymore. And obviously that was the right move, and it made it easier on us. I think this was going to happen anyway. Sometimes, in the preseason, I question Byron Maxwell's effort. In the past, I've questioned his effort, and sometimes you can really see he doesn't give 100% all the time. So he didn't belong on the team anyway. It was just, I think it was a bunch of things just stacking up, and then obviously it was like it just all fell apart with obviously him not running the plays that are called, which is just terrible. So this next news story, I don't think anybody was ever really worried about this, but it is interesting nonetheless. No suspension for Dolphins wide receiver Jarvis Landry. I don't think anybody really expected anything different, but you never know. The NFL is pretty weird about this stuff lately. Dolphins wide receiver Jarvis Landry will not be suspended by the NFL for allegations of battery. Anderson of ESPN.com on Twitter reports NFL investigators have determined that there is insufficient evidence for a personal conduct policy violation. Even though the Broward County State Attorney's Office opted against pressing charges last month, Landry will still be subjected to potential league discipline. Ultimately, the NFL reached the same conclusion as Florida authorities. There was simply not enough evidence to prove substantial wrongdoing. In 6 games this year, Landry has 45 grabs for 365 yards and 3 touchdowns. While he remains an integral part of the offense, his yards per catch has dipped from last year. From 12.1 last year to just 8.1 this year. He'll look to ramp that up as the Dolphins look to build on their 3-game winning streak. He looked sharp on Sunday, hauling in 7 catches for 93 yards and a touchdown in the win over the Jets. Of course, this is a big year for him. He looks to be headed for free agency this spring. So, obviously a lot of things there. There's some speculation going on that the Dolphins, this was the dumbest story ever, but there was some speculation that the Dolphins aren't signing him because of the domestic dispute and the suspension looming, which was not true. I don't think anybody ever believed that. So now that it's cleared up, I think people can't. It's a good thing that that's cleared up because he didn't do anything wrong. If you guys, I'm not going to go through everything that happened. We've talked about it before on the podcast, but he clearly did nothing wrong. So it is what it is. I'm glad that Jarvis isn't going to be suspended for the rest of the year, but I don't think we ever expected anything less. Another thing to talk about was interesting in that report. His yards per catch has dipped. His average yards per catch. I would look for that to go way up with Matt Moore. Something that Jarvis Landry's always been good at is one-on-one situations. Very underrated. I mean, when he was at LSU, some of the balls he came up with on the outside instead of, we're accustomed to see Jarvis catching like 2 to 3 yard outs, breaking a tackle and going for 50 yards. But Jarvis has always been a good 50-50 guy. He's obviously a ball hawk. So, we saw some of that in the Jets game when Matt Moore gave him a chance to go up and get it, and he came down with it. So I think we're going to see more of that. And the thing that's been amazing since for this year for Jarvis especially is this man should have close to 10 touchdowns if it wasn't for bad execution by our team. If there weren't some bad throws, if there wasn't bad timing on certain plays, Jarvis would have close to 10 touchdowns. And he's close. I think he's pretty close to 10 touchdowns anyway. So, Jarvis is having a great year. Obviously, if you don't know, that was the gripe that most fans had with him is he just doesn't get in the end zone enough, and his peers as well. Now that he is, I think he's going to get even more recognition, so that's good. It looks good on the stats, but Jarvis has always been a great player anyway. Anyway, I just thought that was an interesting little tidbit there. Moving on, Dolphins wide receiver Devontae Parker will run and test out his injured ankle on Tuesday. Adam Beasley of the Miami Herald Twitter here's, if it responds well, he is hopeful to play on Thursday against Baltimore. So far this year, Parker has 19 receptions for 236 yards and a touchdown. Let me tell you something about Devontae Parker and Matt Moore. Last time they played together, they were hitting on a lot of, you think about the Steelers game, even though Matt didn't have a great game at all. It was not a very good game, obviously turning it over with fumbles and picks, but he made some insane throws to Devontae Parker and Kenny Stills that not many people in the NFL can make. And Matt Moore has a beautiful touch on the ball. He's very accurate. He's got great ball placement. Just sometimes he tries to do too much, like I said, and sometimes he can stare down his receivers, tipping off his safety here and there. But it is what it is. And Matt is there's great things with Matt. There's bad things with Matt, just like with any other quarterback. But when he has Devontae Parker, man, every time those two have teamed up, great things have happened. So hopefully we get one of our biggest weapons back for Thursday's game. All right, so that is it. That is the all the Dolphins news you need to know about. All right, so we're going to talk about the state of the AFC. So obviously the Bills somehow won that they somehow won that game against the Buccaneers, which was just crazy. AJ Humphries, or I think his name's AJ. I can't remember his name right now. But anyway, their slot receiver for the Buccaneers, little jailbreak screen or something of that nature, catches it and fumbles the football. That was a crazy game. The Bills, they're an interesting team. I still don't. I'm not buying the Kool-Aid, and I haven't. But I think they are going to be there at the end of the year for any kind of wild card spot, and definitely for the AFC East. They're playing great defense under Leslie Frazier. They've really figured out what works for that defense, especially now that they've switched back to a 4-3 as opposed to a 3-4. They're really just rushing their stud pass rushers. They're using Shaq Lawson better than they did a year before. Obviously, he's healthier. Kyle Williams is more comfortable in a 4-3. He definitely is pressures the quarterback more from that position. So it's better for their front. They only really rush 4. They never really bring nowhere near as much as many blitzes as they did when Rex Ryan was there, of course. But they're the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL right now. They're playing good football. Their offense, everything is predicated on the running game. And it's going to be an interesting matchup when we play them at the end of the year, because we've been great at stuffing their run, like tremendous. And everything that they do is really, it starts and ends with Shady McCoy. I mean, they throw screens to him, they throw flare out, flare out, anything you can think of to get the ball in Shady's hands, they do. And everything is really feeded off them. And Sean McDermott, if you're not familiar with him, former Panthers defensive coordinator, goes to Buffalo, obviously, as their head coach. He comes from that system, that Ron Rivera, mentality. Like, we're gonna play great defense. We're not gonna let you in the end zone. You're gonna settle for field goals, and we're gonna run the football and wear you down. And that's exactly what he brought to the Bills. It's the exact same philosophy. So, in saying that, the Bills play the Raiders this upcoming week. It's a 1:00 game. Let me see, is this a home game or an away game? It's a home game for them, so they're gonna have the Bills the Raiders at home, which is it's a tough place to play, Ralph Wilson Stadium. It's a really tough place to play. That's gonna be an interesting game. The Raiders got a very clutch win against the Chiefs on Thursday night to really keep them alive in the division. They can still be AFC West champs because of it. So going into this game, this is a must-win game not for both teams. The Bills, it's not a must-win game, but for the Raiders, it definitely is. They can't fall behind. The AFC East is so stacked. I mean, it really has just built off of what it was last year, which was really strong. And I think even more teams got better this year. What do you think about the Jaguars? They're better than they were a year ago. The Titans are still pretty good. The Colts are pretty much still the same. The Browns are still the same. The Bengals, they're better than they were a year ago. The Ravens are worse than they were a year ago. But the AFC is still stacked with a bunch of really good football teams. I mean, there's been some surprise teams like the Jets. So the AFC is going to be tough this year. It was tough last year. You're going to have to at least win 10 games to get in. There's no 8-8 team that's going to get in this, or 9-7. You're just not going to make it doing that. So it's a crazy stacked. It's a very interesting game. If I had to say, I mean, the one weakness I see with the Bills is their secondary. If you spread them out and you got a good quarterback back there, you can make plays happen. They're not the most complete defense. They do have holes in the back end, and they're very young, obviously with, White there from LSU, their first-round pick. So they have holes there, but if their pass rush can get to you, it's going to be a long day. And they really keep everything in front of them. And they really don't let up big plays. So it's a tough defense to score on. So the Raiders are going to have it's not going to be easy, but that's going to be a very fun game to watch just in general. Let's see here. I think the Jets play the Falcons. The Jets have been surprising this year. I think now that we're done with our series this year, it's obviously tied 1-1 apiece there. We really don't have to talk about them all that much, but they're going to play the Falcons this upcoming week. What time do they play them? No, they don't play the Falcons. Wait a minute. Do they play the Falcons? Yeah, they play the Falcons. The Jets play the Falcons. Anyway, yeah, they play. Here we go. Okay, it's a 1:00 game. It's on Fox. It's at MetLife Stadium. That's gonna be an interesting game. The Falcons are reeling from the loss to the Patriots that they took on Sunday Night Football. So that's going to be interesting, the game in general. Their defense, the Jets' defense, if you pass it on them, because they love, depending on what Todd Bowles' game plan is going to that game, if you have a good passing team, you can expose that defense. Their front seven is great. Their corners are not good. They're not very deep at corner. They have a lot of players you can pick on. They're back end with their two safeties. They're still rookies, so you can take advantage of some of that inexperience at times. So it's not a good matchup for the Jets because of the high-powered passing offense of the Atlanta Falcons. And then the Patriots have the Chargers. That's an interesting game. That's going to be at Foxborough. That's going to be a tough game for the Chargers, for the Los Angeles Chargers. That's a tough game. One thing that we have seen though from the Patriots in general, they lack a power back to finish off games at times. We've seen that earlier this year. And if you can just rush forward and drop everybody back, that's the best way you can play Brady. If you can get pressure with your front four, and if you can match up from across the board with your corners and just play tough nosed defense, man-to-man across the board, rush your talented front four, you have a good chance to win that game. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Chargers want to play it. If they play it like that, I like the Chargers to at least to be a very, 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 very good game. Phillip Rivers has his career against Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. It's been pretty decent. Either it's going to be a very close game, or the Patriots, I don't know if he has a losing record against them. He may. I'm pretty sure he does. But it's always good. It's always a close game. It's gonna be interesting to see how that goes down, because the Chargers are on a little bit of a roll here, and again, they have a talented team. But if they can win that game at Foxborough, that would be the second loss for the Patriots at Foxborough. I don't know the last time they lost 2 games at Foxborough in an NFL regular season. If somebody knows, that'd be amazing. So let's see here. All right. So we discussed the state of the AFC. It's a very tough division this year. Like I said, the Bills are playing the Raiders, the Jets are playing the Falcons, and the Patriots are playing the Chargers. So they all three have tough games. It's going to be interesting to see after this week what the AFC East looks like, because those are all very tough football teams. When you talk about the Bills having to play the Raiders, and then the Patriots have to play the Chargers, and then of course the Jets having to play the Falcons. Those are not easy games to win against very good football teams that are also competing for that wild card spot as well. Not the Falcons; they're competing for bigger things, but the AFC teams are. All right, we're gonna get to the good stuff, and that is previewing the Thursday night football game. I cannot do it just a sole preview video, so for this week we're just gonna do it this podcast. Usually we do just a standalone video on that. We usually just preview. Just highlight players that are going to have big games. So before we get into that, we always do the rookie rankings. So my rookie rankings for this week are pretty much the same. I love Cordrea. I think, although he didn't have the greatest game against New York, he finished the game strong, so he's still my number 1. I still have Charles at number 2. He continues to pressure quarterbacks and provide great rotation for our defensive line that has really helped our defense this year, and great depth at that position. So he's still my number 2. And my number 3 is tied with Vincent Devon. Again, same reasons for Charles. They add great versatility and depth to the defensive line, and it really is helping our run defense as well. So those are my rookie rankings. Let me know what your guys' rookie rankings down in the comment section below are. Alright, so let's get into the injury report, which I haven't done I should do this more, but the injury report for this week. For the Ravens, so this is the Ravens injury report. Running back Terrence West, calf, and tight end Max Williams, ankle, have been ruled out of Thursday Night Football. So, obviously, if you guys don't know, Terrence West is their starter, and then Max Williams, who's one heck of a tight end from Minnesota, he's a very physical player, and he's a good run blocker. So, those are 2 big hits for them. Questionable is Tony Jefferson, Levine, Jeremy Maclin, let's see here, Brashard Perryman, Jimmy Smith, Terrell Suggs, Mike Wallace, Benjamin Watson, and Eric Weddle are all questionable for the Baltimore Ravens. Let's see here. I think Brandon Williams, as far as I can read here, Brandon Williams is going to play. And people are talking about, the loss of Timmy Jernigan has been big hit for them and a huge gain for the Eagles, but people are talking about their front seven and how they're not able to stop the run. Let me tell you something about the Ravens. they've, first of all, most of those games Brandon hasn't played. Now that they have him back, who is one of the best run stuffing DTs in the NFL. I mean, his 2016 season was insanely productive at doing that. That's going to give them a boost in the running game. He did come back for the Vikings game, and Latavius Murray popped a couple of bigger runs, which would be huge for us on Thursday night if that happened for us. So we'll see how it shakes up. Maybe it's because Brandon was, trying to get back into the motions of things. He was trying to get acclimated to the speed of the game again. Who knows? But he is a very big piece of that front seven, and he does help them in that regard. So it's going to be interesting to see how they perform with him. And obviously, Tony Jefferson was I think the number Pro Football Focus ranked him the best run stuffing safety in the NFL last year. So this front, regardless of what you see in the stats, is talented enough to have one good game against the run. If they can't be consistent, they can't be consistent. But they are very talented, and they can get after the running game. So it's not, I'm not saying it's a misconception because they have not performed well against the run all year, but they're getting some of their pieces back. And, C.J. Mosley, you talk about Terrell Suggs, those guys are not to be messed with, especially CJ, who is the best thing the thing he's best at is dominating the tackle box, and he plays in the AFC North where all the teams in that division love to run the football. So again, this team is built to stuff the run. It's got players that are more than capable of doing that. It is not. It's just I hear a lot of people saying JJ could have a good game, all this other stuff. Caution, because this defense is very good. Against the Vikings, they were tremendous. The final score is very misleading. If you watch, I watched that. I didn't watch the game, but I watched. I saw stuff. I watched the game after the Dolphins game. I didn't watch it on Sunday, but I watched it. It was a very, it was very, very, very just defense. It was a defensive battle. The Vikings can only settle for field goals. Same thing with the Ravens. Obviously, their offense is beat up. So, again, their defense is very good and very physical. And, obviously, we've had struggles against the Ravens for the last 5 years, it seems like. The only time, I think, in the last, I'm going to say 5 years, the last 5 years that we beat them was when Joe Flacco wasn't playing towards ACL. Excuse me. And Matt Schaub was their quarterback. And we barely beat them. And that game was at formerly known as Sun Life Stadium or Joe Robbie Stadium, but now it's Hard Rock Stadium. So it's going to be a tough game for those reasons. Some of the things on defense that I'm worried about, and this happens every year against the Ravens, is screens. They love, it doesn't matter who they're playing, they love the tight end screen, and they have very big, athletic, physical guys at tight end. So they can, if they catch a ball, if you guys remember the play against the Jets, their tight end Tomlinson, who caught the screen, and it was going down the sideline. He almost scored. If it wasn't, I can't remember who tackled him, but he was tackled at the 20-yard line. If that was one of the Ravens tight ends, he would have scored a touchdown. That's how athletic they are. So we have to be better in the screen game. We have to be better at tackling, because this team, for some reason, every time we play them, it's screens, it's the quick passing game, it's the run game. Those are the three things that are just kill us when we play the Ravens. So it's going to be the same game plan because we haven't proved that we can beat it yet. So we have to do better on Thursday night against some of those things. Good news is, out of those three things, number one, we're way better against the run. Our run defense is like night and day from a year ago. It's not even close. So that's great. Number two, the tight end screen thing is going to be interesting. Open field tackling has been better than in past years, but last year was probably at its all-time worst, or excuse me, not last year, last game. So hopefully we can clean some of those things up and be a little bit more consistent. And we have to have a good game plan for that. We have to recognize what they're going to do to us. And the third thing, the quick pass game in the middle of the football field, we're obviously way healthier right now than we were the last time we played these guys. So that's going to help us a huge chunk. Obviously, they don't have Steve Smith anymore, so that really hurts their quick passing game as well. So yeah. Our secondary is better than it was a year ago, too. So the game plan is going to be interesting if they go in with the same kind of mindset into this game. Because, again, the last 5 years we've played this team, it's been the same formula over and over again. We're going to pound the rock, and we're going to really bootlegs, screens, anything quick off of the running game. And it's killed us. It's absolutely killed us every time we played them. So, again, I think we're better prepared for that. We're better in terms of personnel with, William Hayes. Those guys are physical players. I think we're better suited for that type of a game plan that I would 100% believe that the Ravens are going to go into this game with. So we got to be prepared for those things. Hopefully Matt Burke has, drilled it into our players' heads this week that this is what they're going to do, because it's not going to be a surprise. I mean, we know what they're going to do. We just got to be able to stop it. In terms of the offense going into this game, we talked about it. The number one thing we can't do is Matt Moore has to do a great job of dealing with pressure. This front is amazingly talented when you talk about some of these players on this defense. I mean, it's a very, very good defense. They've got veteran players on the back end, with Jimmy Smith and Brandon Carr, and then obviously they have one of the better safety duos in the league with Tony Jefferson and Eric Weddle. So this defense is very talented. So the offense has to do a great job of getting good down and distance. That way you don't have T-Sizzle coming off the edge on a 3rd and 13. You're basically going to lose that battle every single time. So we have to win the battle on 1st and 2nd down. But what my point is Matt Moore is going to have to do a good job of handling pressure and making good decisions with the football. He cannot turn the ball over 3 times this game, whether that be 2 fumbles and a pick. It can't happen, because if he does it, we're going to lose this game. We can't give their offense easy field position. We cannot give their offense easy field goals, easy touchdowns. Throw a pick on the 10-yard line, they get it up. 3 runs, they're in the end zone, or a play action pass, they're in the end zone. We can't do that, because this defense it's very hard to get points off of them. So we have to take advantage of some of those things, and we can't give them easy scoring opportunities. If it comes down to it, and it's a defensive drag out, it comes down to the 4th quarter, whoever gets a pick first wins, then so be it. But it can't be our football team be throwing the pick. It can't be Matt Moore. So Matt Moore has to do a good job of making decisions with the football, and just I'm not gonna say manage the game, because I love how Matt plays. He does not manage the game. I mean, he takes risks, but he cannot turn the ball over in this game. And obviously Matt has had a fumbling problem since he got into the league, so he has to be, ball security should be the number one thing for this offense. If the defense has to win this game, then so be it, because the Ravens are very, very, very injured on the offensive side of the football. They're missing a lot of key weapons for that team. They're missing their starting running back, obviously, and Collins has done a good job filling in, but they're missing a lot of weapons for Joe Flacco. So we just have to do a good job on offense of taking care of the football, because we just can't throw it away. That will really hurt us on Thursday night. And obviously we're playing in a hostile environment as well. We're playing on the road, so it's very important that we don't turn the football over and get that defense going, especially just in general. It just can't happen. When you talk about some of the ways we can attack this defense, C.J. Mosley's a great player. But some of the things he struggled with is if you can get a running back on him somehow in like any situation in the end zone or something like that, he struggles in open space to cover people. That's been the number one thing. Like I said, if he's in a man-to-man situation, he's very good in zone coverage. But if he's in a man-to-man situation, I like our matchups with Damian Williams, and if we can just find that matchup. So that could be a way we can exploit it. The running game, obviously the Ravens, despite the talent that's on the field, they've struggled against the run. So hopefully, as a team, we can take advantage of that, really run the football well, get our guys in down and distance, favorable down and distance, and really make plays. But I think the passing games are going to really have to come up clutch here. Julius Thomas and Jarvis, and hopefully DP's playing, but Kenny, we have to be consistent with the way we're playing right now. The Jets game was a perfect example of that. We were just stretching. We were really being aggressive and pressing the secondary, which was really obviously messes with the defense's confidence, messes with momentum and all that other stuff. But you want to have a threat of a deep pass. You want to have a threat of a big play. So to really open up things in the running game. So the passing game's going to have to be very good in this game. It's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. They got really good players on the back end, vet players. It's going to be hard. This is one of the better defenses. Despite the rankings, talent-wise, it's one of the best defenses in the league. So we have to do a good job of, again, taking care of the football, getting in favorable down and distance, and not doing stupid stuff. Again, hopefully the passing game is still where it was, because we can pass it on anybody. I don't care if we're going against the Legion of Boom. Our receiver core is super, super talented. Adam Gase is a great head coach, I don't think anybody doubts that. But we can pass it on anybody. It just has to be consistent. And ever since Matt Moore has been the starter, even with Tannehill, Tannehill, it was consistent. So it was very consistent at the end of the year. I mean, I'm not even gonna get off track here, but as long as the passing game is still a threat in this game, I think our offense is gonna perform well. Another thing that I like from the change from Jay Cutler to Matt Moore that I think is gonna help just in general is Matt Moore. It's, you've heard it, I think, this past media week if you watch the press conference with Matt, and maybe you've read some articles, but Matt doesn't, preference for quarterbacks with Tannehill and Jay. They have their personal preferences with their favorite plays. Every quarterback in the NFL, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, doesn't matter, Aaron Rodgers, they all have their personal preference. For some reason, Matt Moore doesn't have one. He just rolls with the punches. He's very comfortable with whatever Adam Gase calls, which is very helpful to this offense because Adam is a super smart player, or excuse me, super smart coach. So if Adam feels comfortable calling this, maybe Jay doesn't, he's not going to call it. But now that Matt is the quarterback, he calls anything he wants, whatever he thinks is best for that specific situation, he's going to call. There are no chains, even though Matt Moore is the quarterback. Adam Gase is not putting chains on this offense. The playbook is wide open. Anything that we can run in that playbook is going to be, there's no limitations. Adam is not going to do that. He's not that type of head coach. He obviously knows what Matt's strengths are, but there are no limitations. There's no personal preference in this particular game plan, which is good for us because the talent on this field is great. And whatever coverage Adam sees, whatever personnel they're running, whatever formation they're running to combat what we're doing as an offense, there's no limitations to what we can do in terms of playbook and personnel or anything, comfortability, any of that stuff with Matt Moore. So that's going to really help us as well. So this game is going to be really, really fun to watch. I can't wait. I don't know if we're gonna wear the creamsicle jerseys again, but I don't care. I don't care what we wear, to be honest with you. Or are we gonna wear all white? I don't remember what we're gonna wear. I would love to wear all white. I love the white jerseys. But anyway, it's gonna be a fun game to watch. Like I said, my keys to the game is if the offense doesn't turn the ball over, we're gonna be good. This is gonna be a very close game. So for the offense, number one, two things. Don't turn the ball over, which is the most common thing ever. And number two, just the threat of the passing game has to be there. Be consistent with the passing game. On defense, stop the running game, open field tackling, and screens. Those are my three things. Do those three things. We know the pass rush is going to be there. If we get them in third and long situations, they play into our hands. So, again, two or three things, really. Just tackle in the open field, which is the same thing with screens. Be smart. And don't make dumb decisions. That's the same. Just be yourselves. Make open field tackles in the screen game, and in the running game, be dominant, and then we'll be okay. All right, so I think we're gonna move on to the Miami Dolphins fan Q&A. So let's do that. I can't wait for this. It's gonna be really fun. There's a lot of great questions that I couldn't answer, so I can't wait for this. This question comes from Jose. He says, Ajayi looks better at catching the ball. We should feed him more like Matt Moore. Screenplays, if he gets into the secondary, it's over. Your thoughts? There was that one play that was it was like 3rd and 19, and we screened it to Jay, and it actually worked. Hallelujah, screen worked for this team. And he bursted up the sideline and almost broke it for a first down. I think he was like a yard or half a yard short of the first, which I was surprised Adam didn't go for it after that. But, yeah, so... No, I think screens, yes. That's something he did well at Boise was catch screens, and they ran a lot of screens for him because of his obviously his field vision is insane. So you want to get him the ball in open space, of course. And if you can get him one-on-one with the corner, obviously that's game over. So it's a nice idea, but on a consistent basis, I think screens I'm okay with. If we want to run a screen play to Jay, that's fine. I want to limit those as much as possible, not because of Jay, just because of the execution of the offense. We really are not good at executing screens. I have no idea what it is, and especially since we're going up against a veteran defense, front seven that's very savvy. I don't want to run as many screens because Terrell Suggs will just blow those kinds of things up. You really want to run screens to really slow down the pass rush of the other football team. It's good for those things. If we can get the right look and catch them in a blitz, I don't mind running it and getting Jay and Jay involved. It has nothing to do with Jay, but I would tone those back because we are very, very poor at executing screens. I like the idea. If we can execute better as a team, I think we will see more screens. This question comes from Jose. He says, Carew is amazing at pick plays. Should we have him in there for screen blocking as well? Your thoughts? Yeah, he's amazing at pick plays. Carew, he's made other game. He's been called for penalties. That's something he's been, improved on this year is, doing the right things in a pick, not making it so obvious. Just run your route into the corner. Don't pick really. That this year, the idiosyncrasies of the offense, rookies do that all the time. It doesn't matter who you are, but now that he kind of understands what's going on, he's better at those plays, and he's a big physical receiver. So if he hits you, if you get close to you, you're gonna fall down. So yeah, I definitely love that personnel grouping. I want to see him more in the middle of the football field. He's a great route runner with great hands, especially in the red zone. We need to utilize him more in just any situation, really. He's basically another Juice Landry. Seriously, he's like two Juice Landrys on the field. Very similar players, strong. They're ball hawks. They make when the ball is going their way. So, and very, very hard to bring down after the catch. And Crew may be a little bit faster than Juice. So I want to see him just get more involved in the game plan. I want to see him line up on the field more. This next question comes from BTD Gamer. He says, should the Dolphins start Matt Moore? I don't think they should, but he did play a very good game. And will Matt Moore start on Thursday? And what do you think about the run game? Yes, Matt Moore is going to start. I think he may start for the next 3 games. I don't know, but I don't think so. I think after this Thursday game, I think Jay Cutler will most likely come back. So he says, should the Dolphins start Matt? Yes, the Dolphins should start Matt. I think for all his faults, he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. Like if he was on the Jaguars, that team would be better. That team would be a playoff team with Matt Moore. So you can win games with Matt Moore on a consistent basis. I love Matt Moore. It's just, does he fit? There's something, like I said, his mobility in the pocket is my biggest question mark. Because, again, the pass protection hasn't been perfect. Can he navigate the pocket and make good decisions with the football? We'll see. The running game, on Thursday night, what do you think about the running game? On Thursday night, again, whether it's schematics or just sometimes the ball rolls your way that, personnel-wise, I don't know, for some reason. I think the loss of Jernigan has really hurt them in the running game. But they, who knows really why the Ravens are struggling, because they have the personnel for it. I like the running game. If the Ravens continue to give up big runs, then that's just good stuff for us. So we'll see what happens, though. We'll see what happens on Thursday night. I want to see how that plays out. But of course, our running game is a threat for sure because of who we have in the backfield. Brandon says, should we use Anthony Fasano more than we see Julius Thomas? Fasano blocks, runs routes, and catches the ball. In certain situations, if it's an obvious passing situation, I want to see Julius Thomas. You saw, like, if he's one-on-one with the safety, it's money, basically. I mean, you saw the Jets game. That one-handed snag is what Julius Thomas was doing in Denver. So that's what we need to see more of Julius Thomas, is making plays on the football and being more of a playmaker. And I think we're going to see more of those things now that we have Matt at the QB. We ran a lot more empty that game. For some reason, I would love to know why. We were more aggressive in that game. Even when Cutler was in, we were more aggressive. We took a deep shot to Julius Thomas that didn't connect, but early on it did on the sideline there. But we were being more aggressive even when Jay was in. So I love the new style and what we're going with. It really works for this team, this particular personnel, and who's helming at the quarterback position. Being more aggressive is only good. Only good things can come from that because of the talent on the team. So I love Julius Thomas in obvious passing situations because of his ability to make plays and his route running. He's a great receiving tight end. He's just not a great blocker. So I love Fasano too. He's a great receiving tight end. That's why if he's in there, obviously the other defense is going to think run, but you can play action and sneak him out, and he's going to be a mismatch for your defense. All right, this question comes from Brandon. He says, "How do you think we will do against Terrell Suggs?" This question comes from Brandon. He says, "How do you think we will do against Terrell Suggs? He has dominated our O-line since Ray Lewis was in town. Do you think we chip him to slow him down, or do we just trust our linemen?" I think chipping is going to be very, very. I think the way you can nullify the pass rush is 3 things really. Quick passing game has to be consistent and successful, in the running game. And I guess it's really 2 things really, because I'm not gonna. The other thing is pretty much the same thing. The quick pass game, screens. It falls under the same category, but you have to be successful in those 2 things. You can really nullify. So if we do those 2 things well, we're not gonna have to chip, because if we're getting 3rd and 2, we don't have to sit back there forever. We get the ball out of our hands quick. So those things will help. If we can, again, be successful in the quick passing game on a consistent basis, get a 3rd and 2, you don't have to sit back. Terrell could be Terrell. If there's somehow you can lock down all of our players on a 3rd and 2, hats off to you. But I think if we win the battle of 1st and 2nd down, that's the best way to stop Terrell. And if we have a presence of a running game, that's another great way, because obviously he's not rushing the passer. And yeah, Terrell has been a plague to us ever since he's been in the league, really. This question comes from Brandon. He says, "Are we getting a lineman back this week?" Ted Larson, I don't think is coming. I don't think he's gonna play. I would have to look into that. I don't think he's playing this week, though. I'm really not informed on that 100%. I would expect his best chances to come back this upcoming week, or this game after the Thursday night's game. Brandon says, "What's wrong with our red zone run game? It's atrocious." It's not atrocious. We just don't run the ball in the red zone. I like that, though, because teams, I wasn't a huge fan of us throwing a pick, but it was, in a way, it was the right call there. Jarvis Landry was actually wide open on that play. He was one-on-one with the linebacker on a slant, and that was just game over. So I love us doing that. We wouldn't have scored those touchdowns against the Jets if we didn't do that. Teams are geared to play the run against us. Their linebackers, every time you watch film on us, they shoot the gap so aggressively. It makes you scratch your head how we haven't been more successful earlier on in the passing game. So I love that mentality. I love that. I think Adam Gase should keep it. I don't think execution-wise it's been atrocious. There was a run that we were near the 10-yard line. I don't know if we were first and goal or not, but it popped off for some pretty good yards against the Jets. We can do it. It's just the personnel that we see on the field just warrants us to pass the football, and we'll be successful doing it. So I like that mentality. And again, I think the execution, we just haven't done it enough. And again, it has what to do with what the defense is showing. Brandon says, "I told you Byron was trash. Do you think we replace him with the corner? Do you think we replace him at corner with another DB?" I think this gives more snaps to obviously Werner, and not just Werner, but Torrey McTyer. Hopefully, eventually, we'll see more of him down the road on special teams and stuff of that nature. When Jay Cutler comes back, we'll have another roster spot there. So. I think maybe we'll keep another lineman with Ted Larson. We'll see what happens, but I think that opens up windows for some of those things. That's going to be interesting to see what we do with that extra roster spot. I love Torrey McTyer. I think he was great in preseason. I think we need to see him on special teams. Todd Jean says, let's say Matt performs on the level similar to Cousins or Wentz within his 3 weeks of starting. When Cutler returns, will he be 2006 Cutler or 2017 Cutler? Do you think great play by Moore will induce Cutler to be more aggressive? I think the play calling has a lot to do with that, and I think the aggressiveness was there in that Jets game. We really took a lot of shots early and often in that game. You just saw some different, group personnel groupings in that particular game. One of the things I saw in that game with Cutler. The red zone touchdown to Anthony Fasano, that is the exact same formation and personnel and scheme, all that kind of stuff. Execution, everything that they ran in Chicago. That play they ran a lot in Chicago. Play action fake and then throw it quick. That shotgun, everything about that play was the same thing they ran in Chicago. So that is a perfect example of Cutler being familiar with that particular play. The other players on the field, not so much. They didn't run that a lot this year and last year. So I think that's why you see a big difference between why the players aren't executing and building off of what they had last year at the end of last year is because they have to run stuff they're not used to accustomed to running. When Matt's in the game, we were running our stuff that we ran in 2016. So that's why I think the execution that's why it's different to you guys. That's why it's different. And I think we were kind of getting back to some of those things when Jay Cutler was in. We're kind of rolling the ball there, and they were starting to get more familiar with some of the things that Jay and Adam ran in Chicago. And yeah, I think if he performs at any level similar to Carson Wentz, who's an MVP candidate, and Kirk Cousins, who's having one heck of a season, then yeah, he should definitely be the starter. That's a great quarterback play right there. Brandon says Jarvis Landry showed why we need to pay him. Honestly, was the first player to bring attitude to our offense. Do you think we will ink him the long term? I hope so. Again, he's the heart and soul of this franchise. You see more Juice Landry jerseys in the stands, and this is not just a fan thing. It's a field thing too. You don't pay you don't sign players to make the fans happy. You don't pay you obviously don't make decisions for your organization based on what the fans want. Obviously, that's true. But if we lose Jarvis Landry, we're losing a once-in-a-lifetime player. He's a very versatile player, despite what the media thinks. You saw in the Jets game, he lined up on the outside and was tremendous. He caught that huge ball over whoever. And in late in game, I can't remember who was defending him, but in late in games, he's money. On money downs, he's money. On the outside, he's successful. I don't understand the stigma that Jarvis Landry gets. You think, oh, he doesn't get in the end zone enough. This year, he's living in it. So. And I love using him in red zone packages more and calling his number more in the red zone because you see it, man. He's a ball hawk. In each of our last 3 wins, he's had a touchdown. So he's one of the best players on the team. He's one of the most productive players on the team. He's the best slot receiver in the NFL. Not only because he can be a dominant receiver inside, but he can also be a dominant receiver on the outside, and he can also be a dominant receiver in the red zone, which you can't say for any other slot receiver in the NFL. So that's why Jarvis Landry should be signed to the long term. He deserves all the money he can get. Brandon says, is Leonte Carroo a bust, or does he not just understand the scheme we run? He had a great year. He had a great game against the Jets. It was probably his best game. He didn't have a touchdown like he did against the 49ers, but, he had a couple plays that led to touchdowns, and he obviously caught a big ball deep over the middle. So I think Leonte is catching on now. And again, there was a setback when Jay Cutler was the quarterback schematically. Nobody was talking about that. I don't know why, but like I said, I'm not going to talk about it again. The stuff that they ran in Chicago is not what they run here. And that was not just because it helped Cutler, obviously, but it didn't help everybody else on the team. All right. Brandon says, our D-line is superb. Is there a chance we draft more D-linemen? No, I don't. Maybe in later rounds, probably, but there's no reason to stack D-linemen up. I hope we can somehow keep these guys together for as long as possible. I think it's gonna be hard to keep Will Hayes here, but if we can keep him here, that'd be great. Brandon says, what is our biggest threat when it comes to playing the Ravens? The biggest threat is their pass rush. That's it. If we can nullify that, then we'll be okay. This question comes from Brandon. He says, I don't like the Thursday game because we have no bye week and our players are beat up kinda, but in the other hand, we get a 10-day break. How do you think our players will produce? Hopefully fine, but you never know what you're going to get on Thursday night game. You really don't know. I hate Thursday night games personally. I think it's stupid. I don't understand. I guess it helps ratings for some reason for, who gets Thursday night? CBS, but I don't know. I don't understand it. I guess it helps the NFL. I honestly, at this point, I don't think it would. I think fans can wait till Sunday to watch their games, and I don't think I don't know. I think it's bad for the players. It's bad for the game. You're not getting the best Dolphins. You're not getting the best of the Ravens on Thursday night because it's such a short week. You're not getting the best team on Thursday on both sides because of that, and I think it's stupid. Brandon says Jay Cutler has broken ribs. He's going to be done for a while. But what if Matt Moore goes on a 5-game win streak? Then I think he needs to start for the rest of the year. That's my personal opinion. Brandon says defense saved the day for the second week in a row. Do you think we need anything more? I don't think the offense was a big part of it too. They had to score 31 points to win that game, so it wasn't just the defense. It was a team effort, and that's the best thing, because we haven't seen that out of this team all year. Is special teams play. Literally on all 3 phases we were great. Special teams, we were fantastic. Obviously we won the game with special teams with the game-winning field goal. We were great on offense. We scored 31 points, and on defense we finished the game superbly strong. We had a game-winning interception. So all 3 phases were tremendous on Sunday, and that's what you want to see out of your team, and that was the first time we saw that. Brandon says, so offense looks way better with Moore. Is there any chance Cutler gets his job back? Yeah, there's a huge chance. I discussed this in the previous video. There's a huge chance, and that report earlier should let you know everything you need to know, really. This question comes from George. He's telling me, hang on, I gotta adjust my eyes here. Giorgio Filosa. Giorgio Filos. I hope that just doesn't sound right to me. Anyway, I hope that's your name. Anyway, he says, my question is, what will it take these upcoming weeks to make Matt Moore the permanent starter this season, and can you at least address the difference in Matt Moore sticking in the pocket to allow his receivers to get open, and Jay Cutler constantly backpedaling from the time to the snap, throwing off of his back foot? The biggest difference we've already discussed. Number one is the play calling thing. It's just different because if Matt Moore doesn't have a personal preference, he doesn't have plays that he likes, he's not going to say, oh, I don't like this because this, and this. He runs whatever Adam calls. So it really allows Adam to have a little bit more freedom as a play caller, which is great. Number two, we're gonna run things that our team is more familiar with because Matt Moore is in there as opposed to Jay Cutler. So those are the two things that are gonna help big time. Those are the two differences. What is it going to take for Matt Moore to start permanently? He's going to have to win all the games that he start. If he wins all the games that Jay Cutler misses, then he needs to start. I think that's what it's going to take. Ronald says, what did you think of Ray Maluga lining up as fullback in that 3rd and 1.5 yards? His comment to Gase was, if we can't run for a yard behind me, I will take off my clothes on the sideline. Yeah, he can dominate the tackle box. He comes down, he's a great tackler. I loved it. If he can move people off the ball, then he needs to play fullback in short yardage situations, which we struggled with in games past this year. So if we can keep that up, and if he can keep being successful at it, we need to keep doing it. Antonio says, Cody Parkey and our punter are pro bowlers and all pro first teams, best in the NFL, super clutch. Yeah, they're very, very good. Matt Hawk and Cody have done a great job. And hats off Darren Rizzi. He's been a coach a long time here in Miami, and he deserves great. He's one of the best special teams coaches in the NFL. Ronald says, do you think Miami should explore trading for wide receiver Martavis Bryant from the Steelers? I talked about this in the fan Q&A. No, because even if we got him, we wouldn't have him for that long. And I think we need to either draft young players behind him or continue to develop Deontay Cruz, Jakeem Grant, and some of the younger players that we have. DRU. Ooh, this is a tough name. Drew. I'm going to say Drew. Why haven't we heard anything about the front office going after Brandon Albert? It's not like we couldn't really use him right now. The Dolphins are... Apparently, he doesn't want to play guard. I think that's probably the biggest reason. I think he's probably let his grievances be known that he wants to play tackle, and that's just not going to happen on our team. The Dill Pickle says, why... Okay, we answered that. Thank you. He said, why isn't Jay being more consistent? It's more about the team around him than it is him. Ryan says, and we're talking about Ajayi. Ryan says, do you see TJ McDonald starting this week? I don't think so. No, I don't think so. He'll probably start whatever the game is after the Ravens game, and I can't remember what it is right now. Ronald says, what do the Dolphins... he says, what do the Dolphins defense do to stop the screen? What do the Dolphins need to do to stop the screen games, especially with 2 games with the Patriots and a game with the Chiefs? Both are super deadly with their screens. How do we stop it, in your opinion? Same thing with the Ravens. They love the screen game. It's just being more smart, and your linebackers have to understand the down and distance. If it's 3rd and 19... that should be the number one thing you look for, is a fake screen one way and a screen the other way, or just like a slip screen, any tight end screen. Just watch the guards. You just have to be more aware of the situation, and you got to be more aware of your assignment on the. If you truly are doing what you're supposed to do, and you know your assignment, the screen game shouldn't work. You should either follow whoever your matchup is, or you should be looking, if you're playing zone, looking at the quarterback. It's easy stuff. It's just being smarter as a defense, recognizing what the situation is at that game, watching film. There's nothing really I could say that they can do on the field, from just like any other standpoint other than just read your keys. That's basically all. Just be smart. Watch the game film. Be better prepared for what they're trying to do to you. Understand what kind of screens they run and what you can do as a linebacker to combat that. But it starts with the linebackers being smarter and understanding what the situation is at that time in the game. Just be smarter, really. Todd Jean, there's nothing really, again, screens are screens. Todd Jean says, do you think Jay Cutler gave up Well, the Dolphins, do you think he's patched? We answered that in the fan Q&A. He says, Ronald, this question comes from Ronald. He says, Skaggs, Asiata finally talked Kenny Stills into war paint Sunday and Stills balled out. Do you think Stills should keep doing that war paint for the rest of the year? Absolutely. It looked baller. I loved it. Ronald Hyatt says, did you see at the end of the game Rashad Jones smack Adam Gase on the butt? Yes, I did. That was hilarious. Ronald says, with William Hayes, Jarvis Landry, Matt Moore, Jay Cutler, Damian Williams, Ray Maluga, and Nate Allen are all unrestricted free agents with only $4 million projected cap room. Whom of these do you target to keep, Skaggs, and whom can we go without? Whew. Man. This is going to be tough. Jay Cutler's gone. Damian Williams most likely is gone. I think in the draft we can try to replace him if we need to, or just Kenya Drake needs to do a better job of understanding what Adam wants on a play. Ray Maluga we could probably do without because of Raekwon coming back. Matt I would like to keep, but that's going to cost a lot of money, man. Juice I would love to keep, and then William I would love to keep. So the three priorities for us should be Matt, Juice, and Will. Ronald says, how great is Cameron Wake right now? Pro Football Focus has him as the #1 edge rusher with a pass rush productivity of 17.1. Von Miller and Carl Lawson tied with 15.9. The ageless Miami Hulk, right? Yeah, absolutely, he's great. This question comes from Archie. He says, what is the best solution to fix the O-line after Ted Larson comes back? Okay, this is a great question because the guards are actually playing better than they have. Like, you talk about Jake Brendel and how he's played. Jesse Davis had a tremendous game at tackle. It's going to be interesting to see what we do. I think the O-line is getting better, not worse, which is great. It's going to be interesting to see what we do with Ted Larson. This question comes from Mike. He says, Mike Lewis. He says, he says, will any of the knuckleheads who supported Cutler ever admit that he was a mistake? Probably not. Cutler's support was hard-headed insanity, hard-headed insanity. After all, but at least Gase should admit he made a mistake. Anyone can see that more is better. All this BS Landry is saying about the fans don't know the game, blah, blah, blah. The results are obvious. Moore has the chemistry, Cutler does not. Moore has it, Cutler doesn't, period. It's more than just ability to play the position. It has to do with familiarity. Again, it hurt everybody on the offense when Cutler was there. It's a different quarterback. Schematically, it hurt us because we were running more Chicago than we were 2016 Dolphins. And just cadence and the way that he moves in the pocket, all of those things are so crucial to a football game that if a quarterback comes in with, even though he was there for most of the training camp, it still will hurt your team because they're not used to him. And schematically, we were running different stuff as well. MC said, should Miami look at Colin now since Cutler went down? Absolutely not. Axel says, Skaggs, do you think the starting offensive line got outplayed by the bench? Depending on who exactly you're talking about there. But B didn't. Mike Pouncey had a good game against the Jets, which is great news for us. I think he's starting to get he's getting on a roll now. B Dennis says, when is the big offensive game coming? These fourth quarter wins are great, but are stressful. That was a 31-point game. That's a pretty big offensive performance. I think we were talking like, when is the blowout gonna come? Who knows? Blowouts are weird. You never know when they're gonna come, really. Antonio says Cutler had a good game. What's the situation on him and Parker? Would they be able to play? Cutler is out. Parker is he's almost doubtful more than questionable. And the other guy I'm really worried about is Laramie, but I'm pretty sure he's going to play. That's the guy I'm most worried about. I think our offense can function good enough without Parker to win, but without Laramie, I think it's going to be pretty tough for an entire game. Ira says, Skaggs, what's up? Still don't think Moore gives us a better chance. Soon as he came in, the energy of the team changed, and we still think Moore gives us a better chance. Soon as he came in the game, the energy changed, the team changed, and we actually started to move the ball more than three. Yeah, you're right. The energy. I don't think it was more of energy. It was just more. We were just more successful. The energy comes from you guys being happy that we're moving the football. But yeah, the offense was just on a roll. And the energy of the team was better because we were coming back, and the momentum was on our side. Dwight Keller-Williams says, I have never seen a quarterback come out of Washington State like Luke Falk. Never in my life has there been a quarterback at Washington State with that has the ability to win like Luke Falk. Right now, Washington State is winning because of Luke Falk and a defense that has been a little stingy. I personally think that if Gase ever wanted his quarterback and not just another quarterback, Luke would be the way to go. Interesting guy. We'll see how it keeps going for the rest of the season, but he's obviously having a very good year. Matthew says, and there's a lot of good quarterbacks to choose from, Dwight. Matthew says, who on the offense and defense gets the game ball? Defense, Bobby McCain. Offense, Jarvis Landry. Dwight Keller-Williams. Dwight says, Miami has done. Excuse me. We're almost out of time. Well, we're out of time, guys. If we're running out of time, I gotta go for this week's fan Q&A. A lot of great questions that I missed. Shout out to everybody who I didn't answer their questions for, because there were some really, really good questions. I think we covered a lot of things that really nobody else is talking about. So, and reason, and you would really have to watch and study the Dolphins hard to know some of these things, but it's nice to discuss them. I am Skyx1383, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.